Hey folks, Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here for some vintage content. I really enjoyed playing vintage and testing for Eternal Weekend, so I'm going to continue to do a little bit more content. I think a lot of it will be direct to YouTube. That way, if vintage queue times are long, I can just like watch anime while I'm waiting for queues and things of that nature. So I wanted to test a Hollowvine deck list, but I never got a chance to over the course of Eternal Weekend. And then I saw this, which is like Hollowvine, except you take out the vines. This is a 5-color Bazaar deck that Winged Hussar came up with, and I think did relatively well in an event with. So what this deck is looking to do is abuse Bazaar of Baghdad more than any other deck can, and it does that by playing Squee, which can be returned to your hand at the beginning of your upkeep if it's in your graveyard, and Krovikan Horror. At the beginning of the end step, if Krovikan Horror is in your graveyard with a creature card directly above it, you may return Krovikan Horror to your hand. So the goal is you activate Bazaar of Baghdad and you discard these every turn, and then you return them, and then Bazaar of Baghdad actually turns into a card draw card instead of a graveyard enabler and selection card. It is still playing Hollow One to just have the ridiculously broken starts that we're all used to, and it's still playing Bloodghast and Basking Rootwalla to have other ways of sneaking some power into play. There's also one Hogak. Notably, as somewhat of a meme, this deck is also playing a couple of 5-cost rainbow cards that are uncastable, and that is because they pitch to Force of Negation, Force of Will, Contagion, and Force of Vigor. Prized Amalgam actually might be better than these, but then you're dangerously low on cards that pitch to Force of Vigor, other than, redundant copies of Force of Vigor. So it's the difference between 12. Well, sorry. You have 8, 12, 13, 14, 15. So realistically, you have 14 cards that can pitch to the first copy of Force of Vigor that you have. And I don't really know that I want to go down to 12. So Prized Amalgam might be better, but in the spirit of this deck, I'm going to go ahead and play these. The sideboard is relatively pointed. You have things for graveyard decks, you have things for shops, and you have a couple of lands so that you have a little extra gameplay versus something like a Tabernacle that might be problematic, or a little extra game versus something like a Hogak that sneaks into play and you need to fend it off. All right, let's see how we do.